everybody. This is Carol Muleta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Hey, Mama, if you've been holding it together on the outside, but feeling spiritually drained on the inside, I want to invite you to something special. The Ministry of Mom Experience is happening May 2nd in Washington, D.C. It will be a faith-centered day to help you reset, breathe, and walk away with practical tools to parent with confidence and peace. You don't need more pressure. You need an anchor and a plan. Register now at ministryofmom.com. That's ministryofmom.com. Today on the Parenting 411, we're diving into a topic every mom knows all too well, that invisible mental load we carry from sun up to, well, whenever we're supposed to be asleep, actually. You know the one, remembering the appointments, managing the activities, keeping everyone moving while trying to stay emotionally present. Our guest, Amy Briggs, has lived this story from two powerful angles. As a pediatric speech-language pathologist who spent years inside homes, supporting families, and as a mom who has felt the same quiet, heavy weight herself. Through her work, especially during the tail end of the pandemic, Amy saw firsthand how stretched parents truly are and how much support we all deserve. That insight is what sparked Aviva, the AI-powered scheduling assistant created for parents, not just to organize the chaos, but to help bring back more peace, presence, and actual joy to family life. So you all know I love that. Amy brings heart, empathy, and a beautiful blend of clinical insight and tech innovation. And today she's here to help us rethink how we hold and hopefully lighten our mental load. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. And I tell you, as I was introducing you, I was remembering how I called those evening hours, my second shift.
Yes.
And truly, it may have even been my third shift. But yeah, it's like I actually planned what was going to happen in those hours. It wasn't, once I put them in bed, I'm going to be able to relax. I actually had plans for things that I needed to get done that were hard to get done when the children were so young. It's just, and like, I can recall how I didn't even watch TV. Like there were, prior to my children being born, there were shows that I was watching and keeping up with. I dropped them all. And there's like I would say 7-year blur in terms of shows, in terms of music. Like when I came out on the other side of that, I was like, who are these people? Like by then, they were great. They probably had won some Grammy awards. And I'm like, who is this? Like, right. I don't even know. I don't even know who these people are. And you all love them.
Yeah. Just trying to reemerge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I absolutely, our conversation and just thinking about what we're going to cover just takes me back to those days when my twins were really young. Mm-hmm. And absolutely. when I was really trying to stay on top of things. So let's jump in. You spent years, as I said, inside real people's homes, supporting parents and children directly. So what moments or patterns made you realize that parents need a new kind of support?
Yes, thank you for this question. I think it wasn't one moment in particular that crystallized this for me, but more many moments that repeated over and over again. And both in my own home, when I began my private practice, I had two very young children. We were emerging out of the pandemic. I was in other people's homes, and really in a capacity that I probably wouldn't have been at any other time in my life because of the moment in history that we were in.
Yes.
Parents had really been stretched so thin. The ask for parents during, times of lockdown and things like that to be the parent, the educator, keeping the household together, that mental load was much heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into people's homes just on the heels of that, as people were starting to reemerge into everyday life as they had known it before, I was struck by how often the first thing parents were doing when I came over was apologizing to me.
Mm.
And
Why? Why were they apologizing?
their homes were messy, toys were out,
Oh, okay.
snacks were everywhere, someone was crying, someone napped too long, they forgot that I was coming was a big one. And I said, first of all, please, if I can, let me relieve you of any of those feelings of guilt. I so many times found myself saying, if there weren't toys all over your home and you have very young kids, I would be very concerned as a clinician, right? Because it would mean
Mm-hmm.
that you weren't playing. If it's the middle of the day and your kids are home and they're supposed to be playing and learning through play, yeah, I should see toys when I come in. It shouldn't look like no one lives there.
Good
So I
point.
started to really see kind of behind the curtain, maybe in even more vulnerable a way than I saw with my closest friends, what
Mm.
modern parenthood was looking like for other parents, how hard they were struggling. I saw that there was this bar that was continually rising that everyone was chasing to try to catch
Mm-hmm.
for what a good parent looked like. And it was taking people further and further and further afield from what I knew clinically and from my research and my background really were the most important things in parenthood: connection, joy,
Mm-hmm.
happiness, the things that really probably most of us set out to be parents to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I became just really passionate about trying to figure out a way to alleviate some of this other really heavy load that I now couldn't unsee after I had seen it, that I had also felt myself and maybe just thought, well, that's me. I take on a lot or whatever it is. But no, that's every single mother that I spoke to.
Mm-hmm.
And that it lit a fire in me, to do something to try to address this head on.
Okay. And so, of course, you are a mom. Talk about how your background or your perspective as the speech language pathologist also helped shape it into what Aviva has become.
Sure. So I've spent a lot of my career as a speech pathologist working in specific areas that are my clinical areas of specialty, one of which is executive functioning. So for anyone
Mm-hmm.
listening who might not know what that is or might have heard that because it's a buzzword right now,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of quickly unpack that bag, executive functioning is like the conductor of the orchestra of your brain that gets everyone going so the symphony can play. And it's, if you think about what you do as a parent, and I think every parent listening will be able to relate to this,
Mm-hmm.
it's the ability to hold the groceries you have to pick up in 2 hours while you're finishing the work that you're doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that your child needs a new size of soccer cleats all together in your brain at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to hold disparate pieces of information and act on them when the time is needed,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of mental control is a good
Mm-hmm.
way to think about it. And this plays a huge role in how parents can approach all of that mental work that's involved in parenting, especially the invisible components of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really thought about how can I leverage what I know and how I've helped children succeed with executive functioning and all this research I've ingested over the years into a tool that can really streamline this for parents. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's interesting, and I know you have some experience with this yourself in your path to becoming a parenting coach, Carol, but I often find that some of the best practices that I learn for individuals who might struggle in a given area, so someone who struggles with executive functioning, maybe
Mm-hmm.
has an ADHD diagnosis, really are applicable and best practice for everyone.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm so glad that you took a moment to really describe in a relatable way what executive function is, because you're right. I heard that term 25 years ago, because I have a son who was diagnosed with pervasive developmental delays, and that's what they talked about. And, that's something we need to think about even with our children, and to the extent that we can support that and help them to develop skills in that area, we do prepare them for adulthood when they absolutely will be managing all kinds of tasks, commitments, and obligations. And like you said, they have to hold on to it even as they're doing something else. And so that perfectly describes the life of a parent, and certainly a mom, in their regular day. There might be like 9 things you're holding on to. And that's that invisible load. That's what people don't realize, because I can remember before I had children and I was still in the workforce. I had a friend she had 2 young children, and she talked about how people asked, like, "Well, what do you do all day?" kind of thing. And they're just thinking about the basics of all you have to do is get them dressed in the morning, feed them, and, cook the 3 meals, maybe clean the house a little bit. I mean, like, what else? But no, they're not
Mhm.
thinking about you spending some time scheduling the doctor's appointments, and if your child has any sort of special requirements, special needs, factoring that in, playing with them, teaching them things, helping them to grow and develop. There's just so much in there that they have to hold on to, and that executive functioning those skills definitely kick into high gear as a parent. I definitely found that to be true myself, and I came from corporate marketing, so I managed a lot of projects and managed a lot of people, but it's just different. It's
It's
different at
different.
home, and the
Yeah.
stakes are different at home too.
Absolutely. I always tell people, we all juggle so much as adults, but there's something that's true about every parent I've ever met, which is probably at this point, thousands of parents over my career and in my process of building Aviva. Parents are always juggling balls. Yes, some of the balls can drop, some of the balls are rubber and can bounce back up. Every
Mm,
single parent feels that their child is a glass ball that they don't want to drop. They just are. The things for our
right.
kids are something we don't want to miss on or mess up because
Mhm.
we love them so much. So even if it
Right.
is something smaller, I really started to see this through line of, the guilt and the shame that people
Mhm.
carry when that
Mhm.
executive functioning doesn't hold all the pieces together and something does fall by the wayside. If it was for their children, it could have
Mhm.
been decades ago. They were still holding on to it and they were still thinking about it and feeling bad about it
Mhm.
because parents, I think, they're coming to your podcast for the same reason. They want to be good parents. They want to
Right.
show up well for their kids. They want to do a good job. They don't want to fail at anything.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that. In fact, it's a trivial matter, but I still wish I had put my son in acting classes when he was younger.
See, there are always those things, right?
I probably cheated him, but I think he really could. I think he would have really benefited from that. And he's 26 now. My sons, twin sons, are 26 now. But I think he would have benefited from that. But I guess I guess he'll be okay. So you talk about the tactical side of scheduling and also the emotional side. So talk about what that looks like in everyday parenting.
Sure. So when I set out to build this tool for parents, I
Mhm.
realized that managing the family calendar was part figuring out what the events are, finding them, getting them on the calendar appropriately, making sure all the details are there, making sure whoever needs to be informed is informed. And that obviously happens in time and space. So for most parents who have school-age kids, that's many hours a week just getting that information reconciled. So
Mhm.
there's the time component of it. And we know that every parent, if they had a magic wand, would give themselves more hours in the day because we never have enough time to get it all done.
Mhm.
But the other part of it that really is harder to kind of pin down and describe is what it feels like to be the holder of all that information, to be the coordinator of all the moving pieces, and especially to worry about what you might be missing just as a constant din of anxiety all the time. And when parents talked to me and I asked them questions as I was doing my research about, what does it feel like for you to do the job of managing the family calendar? It was really emotionally loaded. And I think it's probably not something that immediately jumps out to parents as something that's heavy or hard for them because we just all expect it of ourselves. We have to do it. We have to get it done. Things have to proceed. But when you really start to dig into that with people, I heard, a lot of comments about how stressful it is, how they're always wondering what's in their inbox that they just are never going to see, what's going to be a surprise that's going to derail things when it's already hard enough to manage everything. I think more than ever in the digital age now, we have so much information coming at us as parents and so much we have to, again, use those like supreme executive functioning skills to manage that it really was taking people kind of to the edge and past the edge of their limits at times and taking people away from the core of parenting and the things that I always think about, like, what are the things that only a parent can do for their child? Those are really special things that need to come from a parent. They need to build that bond. They need to build that relationship. They're the one who's teaching values. They're the one who's imparting some of that hard-won world wisdom that they want their child to grow up and succeed with. And there are other things that we spend so many hours a day and a week doing that anyone could do. I don't need to be the one moving the information from my email into my calendar. And yet I can spend hours doing that instead of being able to do maybe some of the things that are higher level tasks that really require me to do them. So I really started thinking about this in two ways. It's the time that I could save people by automating this task, but also just kind of clearing the way of the guilt, the shame, the anxiety about missing something, the, revisiting of times that things haven't gone perfectly. And I have plenty of stories on that myself that I've experienced. I think probably every parent does that, I think that those don't need to be so heavy.
If you've ever wished your metabolism came with a little boost button, this might be it. Ollie Metabolism Gummy Rings are a tasty way to help your body's natural energy process stay in motion. Each crisp apple-flavored ring is packed with apple cider vinegar, chromium to support lean body mass, and vitamin B12 for that extra get up and go. They're delicious, NSF certified, and super easy to add to your daily routine. So if you're ready to support your metabolism in the sweetest way possible, tap the link and try Ollie Metabolism Gummy Rings today.
And so, we're kind of getting into an area that I want to talk about because I know that you have incorporated AI into Aviva. And I know that that can feel intimidating, impersonal, machine-like to many people. So how did you approach making Aviva feel human, relatable, and supportive while leveraging the benefits of AI?
Yes, such a good question. So I should first start out by saying I have historically in my life been something of a technology skeptic. I am not usually an early adopter. And no judgment here, but in my own home with my own kids, they don't have iPads. We do a lot of physical tasks. That's just the household that we have. And I completely understand. And this is a conversation I've had so many times as a clinician, why parents have technology for their kids. And it's not because there's not a need going on, like it's addressing some kind of a need. It's not just because parents want to do that or some don't. But in my own household, that was a high priority for us, not to have a lot of tech in our home and not to have a lot of kind of digital distraction. And very funny for the people who know me when I started saying, you know what, I think I might build an AI app. I think AI could actually solve this problem. They're like,
They were
wait a
like,
minute.
you?
Yeah, they're like, you're going from like your kids. I mean, my kids got to kindergarten and they were like, what's this magical screen we can touch, right? Like they hadn't seen
Bravo to
an
you that they got
iPad
that
before.
far. Wow. In
Um,
this time, you know?
yeah. So to like all the way pendulum swinging the other direction where they're like, oh, like you're going to build not just an app, but an AI app. And I think a real distinction for me here is I've always thought about technology through the lens of technology should be made in service of people, not the other way
Yes.
around. I'm
Yes.
against technology as a premise that's meant to capture and maintain our attention away from real human interaction, that's meant to take us further and further and further down an echo chamber or a rabbit hole instead of being a part of discourse. I think that those things really have a downside that we're unfortunately
Absolutely.
seeing play out in real time. But I've also seen technology be an incredible tool for people. As a speech pathologist, I've built out, communication systems, for example, for individuals who can't communicate with their voice. So I think that really shaped kind of how I see technology. And once AI became available, and it was the same moment as I was really honing in on this idea of a way to solve for some of this mental load problem for more parents than I could reach as a clinician. It was this beautiful intersection where I realized we now have a technology tool at our disposal that could be used for such good, that could actually do a job for people
Yes.
that they don't want to do for themselves, and that's draining them and taking them away from what they do want to do and what they feel is like a higher calling in their parenthood. So I think because it does so much more than, a traditional kind of logic-based system, which is part of Aviva as well, I only wanted to build a tool if the tool could do the full job for someone. There's nothing I dislike more, especially as a mom. I feel like there's so many things pitched to moms with young children, like just try this method and everything's going to be resolved, or like just do this or just do that. And especially in the world of scheduling and calendaring, those tools are all just a tease. They make
Right.
things look better. Maybe they're color coded, but they don't do anything for anyone. They're not saving me any time. If anything, they're making my job bigger because now I have this like visual, beautiful system to maintain. They're not taking anything off my plate. They're not helping me bring my partner into sharing that task with me. They're not solving the
Yes.
problem. So that really was how I started to think about technology. And because of that kind of whole background and lens that I have, I approached every piece of the building of this product really intentionally and very specifically. We've gone through the highest level of security clearance with Google that we possibly could because we wanted to be able to access people's emails to schedule things for them. We don't keep that data. We don't read that data. We don't sell that data. That is something we are never interested in doing.
Right.
But we needed to be able to have access to sensitive information potentially so that we could take this job off people's plates. And so in the same way
Now,
that,
with that, do you mean like scheduling appointments or something, or?
no, so I'll explain in kind of a quick way how the product works, but in order to, the way that we're scheduling and the way that we're kind of baseline automating scheduling for families is that we're taking information that you've told us you need us to look for. So your kids are maybe when they were younger in soccer, in XYZ classrooms, in these activities, we're pulling that information. So soccer game gets moved to a new field, or school has early release, or it's a bake sale, or your teacher scheduling pajama day. We're pulling all that information and automatically scheduling it for you, even if you never open the email.
Wow. So then it's the families that use it are providing information related to people or things they regularly engage with.
Yeah,
And
so as a
so,
user, like this is another thing I thought about very intentionally. I know how important trust is, and I
right.
know what I would want for my own family and what standard I would have. And that's how everything in the app is designed. So we are giving you the control as a user to say, these are the things that I want you to auto schedule for me.
Got it. Okay.
This is what I want you to take off my plate. These are things I'm often forgetting, or like birthday parties are a huge pain point for people. It sounds silly because they should be something really fun and joyful. And, for our kids, I think they are. But all of the logistics for the parents, I think, are really fraught, both for the hosts and for the guests. So for a lot of people, just all the birthday party invitations are digital. Do they all surface in the inbox in the right folder where people are seeing them, where they can RSVP and make a plan? Are people getting gifts? Are they figuring out a carpool? Or is it like a last minute fire drill every time where they're like, oh, it's Saturday and we have 2 overlapping parties and it's time to go and we didn't buy a gift and everyone get out of the house, These are things we can avoid. We don't have to have those fire drills. There are going to be fire drills about other things in parenting because we have like young humans we're raising. We can knock some of those issues out of our path.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. So tell me then, what shifts have you seen in families who have begun using Aviva, and what do they tell you about the vibe in the house now that they have this tool?
Yes. So before I hired a developer and built out the full version of the app that's in the App Store, I actually built a manual version myself and got real people using it so I could get feedback and make sure that I was solving the problem I was setting out to solve, which is making people feel relieved of this job, and B, that they wanted to use the solution that I was building and that it was actually helping them. So I got people in, and this was very clunky. It was not anything that I could sell. It was, there was no front end. So there was like no design of the app that anyone was interacting with. It was all back end, meaning like I had all these systems that I was tying together that I hoped would become more automated over time to test out, does this work? Can AI do the job that I think it can do? Can logic do the rest of the job? Can we do some of this? And almost immediately, people were saying, I need this. I can't believe what this is doing. Like, wow, it caught this detail in my schedule that I 100% would have missed if it weren't for Aviva. Or for the first time ever, my partner or my spouse now sees what we have going on. And I didn't have to tell them or put it on the calendar. Like, we now have some shared accountability because our family calendar is being populated by Aviva. The best kind of signal that came from that was we asked users in, surveying and interviews and things before they used the product and after, which was a 2-week trial, how much time they were saving, like how much time they were scheduling, and then how much time after while they had it, they were scheduling. People were saving an average of 4 hours a week. And I said, in my house with 2 working parents, like that is a meaningful chunk of time to get back for something that I am very happy to delegate. I don't get any joy or esteem from even when I do a perfect job on our scheduling. Like it does not fill my cup as a parent. It's just something I have to do. So that was kind of that piece. And then as the app has been built out and launched, we had a beta group and we trialed. So I guess all along the way, real feedback from actual parents was the most important North Star for me in terms of, are we getting to what we need to do? And the signal has been really strong and really positive all the way through, all the way to now when people are like, I can't live without this. I'm sharing this to my Slack channel at work. I'm sharing this to, my friends. Like, this is saving me so much time and stress. Someone said to me, this is a safety net for our family life. I know that no balls are dropping now. Like, my shoulders can release because I know I have help now.
Wow, those are powerful statements that people are making. And so talk to the holdouts who are still saying, I should be able to manage this. I feel a little guilty turning all this over to a technology solution. What would you say to that mom?
I think it's so hard to release guilt as a parent in general. And so I would first say, I just want to normalize that you're not alone to feel skeptical about something when it comes to your family or guilty about something if you're not doing it. I would also just say there's no trophy for doing it all. There's no
Yeah,
prize, even if you do it
that
all and you
part.
do it all perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I know from my lived experience as a clinician and all of the research that I've engaged in over my career that what kids really need from their parents is so simple and it's really hard to give. It's our
Mm-hmm.
undivided attention, it's our
Mm-hmm.
time, it's our
Mm-hmm.
patience. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that if parents are trying to do everything at a level of perfection, there's something is going to give. And I
Right.
would urge anyone listening to really protect those things that shouldn't give.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your time and attention for your
Mm-hmm.
children, for your partner, for yourself, for your friends and community.
Mm-hmm.
Protect, your ability to be patient because your kids need that from you as they're growing and learning. That's something that I would urge people not to give on. What are some things if you're going to need to always be putting gas into the tank of those items that you
Mm-hmm.
would give up? And if it's not this, that's okay. But I
Right.
would urge you to find something because something, either you're going to make a choice over what that thing is that you delegate and you let go of, or it's going to choose for you and you're going to have some kind of a breaking point or multiple
Mm-hmm.
where you're in reaction mode rather than like proactive mode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think having that locus of control and choice is really important. What's something that maybe you like managing your family calendar? Of the 1,000 people I spoke to, one person told me she really did. But if you don't, I would invite you to try this. We
Mm-hmm.
purposefully made this a 2-week free trial at the beginning of the app so people can experience it for themselves without an obligation and see if it's for them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, that's okay. I think that it is for a lot of people. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
not this, like find something to give yourself back a little bandwidth. You need it.
Yeah. Yes. Good advice for sure. So, what's your long-term vision for Aviva and just technology solutions that can help families?
I am an eternal optimist, and I really hope that now that we have this incredible technology that's like, a Ferrari instead of the Chevy that we were all driving,
Mm-hmm.
with just, the sea change in the
Mm-hmm.
capability of the tech. I really hope that the builders won't just be men in, billion-dollar companies or
Mm-hmm.
enterprise level organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I think the barrier to entry for building tech is lower than it's ever been. And I'm a good example of that because I'm not a coder or an engineer. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that more parents, especially who understand the problems deeply and would build empathic solutions to some of the problems we all face or some of the
Mm-hmm.
problems facing the future for our kids. I hope more people will build. So that's kind of my like rallying cry. I hope
Mm-hmm.
that will happen. And I think this tech should be in the hands of people who want to make the world better with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a
Okay.
lot that it can do. And in terms of my vision for Aviva moving forward, something that I've always thought a lot about and bits and pieces of it are there in the app right now is anticipation of needs. I
Okay.
think that that's a lot of the invisible mental workload is
Sure.
as a mom, I may be holding which particular lunch my one child wants versus the other,
Mm-hmm.
or how I need to pack the bag for swim practice and make sure the items are in there before we go to the activity before that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it might be, there's a lot of next step and next step and next step. And I think a lot of the kind of marital discord that can fall out from the mental load isn't about unloading the dishwasher. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the 3 steps that come after before that, that one person is holding and owning and no one else knows about, or no
Right.
one else is anticipating and doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there too, I was like, how can we build in anticipation of need into this technology? And we did it by auto scheduling reminders. So there are things
Mm-hmm.
that we know statistically families are likely to forget or miss or are
Mm-hmm.
very high importance. We
Mm-hmm.
auto schedule timely reminders for those things. We also flag conflict so that people can see
Oh.
automatically if they're in overlapping events and they need to
Yep.
move things around in their calendar before it's a moment of crisis. The
Mm-hmm.
future of Aviva for me is greater and greater anticipation of need. what can I take off your plate before it's landing there and causing a problem?
Oh, man. Where were you? Where were you 25 years ago? But I thank you so much for joining. Aviva sounds like an amazing tool. And as I said, I would have loved it during our conversation before today. I could have easily been a planner tester because every year or half year, I was trying out a new planner. I was adding tabs. I was cutting and pasting in frameworks and other things to make the planners that I was finding in the store really make them my own. And so if I just could have had Aviva, I would have saved so much time. But anyway, you're right on time for today's moms, and that's the important thing. So thank you so much for joining. And I say to you, listeners, and those who are watching, that as parents, we often believe that the weight we carry is just part of the job. It's the juggling act, the mental tabs, and we just can't get around that constant sense of don't forget. And, it's all just simply the price of being a good parent. But conversations like this remind us that it doesn't have to be that way. Amy worked hard to create Aviva, and it shows us that support isn't just a nice to have. It's a pathway back to presence, connection, and the parts of parenting that we actually want to savor. We got to get back to that. And if technology can help us reclaim our time, protect our emotional energy, and bring back more joy into our homes, then maybe the real question is, what becomes possible when we finally stop carrying this load alone? I want you to think about that. And so thank you again, Amy, for reminding us that lightening the load doesn't make us less capable. It makes us more available to the people who matter most. And I invite all of you to join us over in the Parenting 411 community on Facebook to talk more about this weight we're carrying and, just to get some new ideas to lighten the load and the vibe in your house. I may even ask Amy to come over there sometime and talk to us for a few minutes, talk about Aviva, and just let you all know that, she understands. She can relate to the guilt that you feel when one of the balls drops, your hesitance to handing things over to technology. She can talk about that with you. And so you'll find a link to Aviva in our show notes. And I'll also share the link for the Parenting 411 community over on Facebook. I can't wait to see you there. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Parenting 411 podcast and drop your comments in the chat on this episode. Let us know what resonated with you. What did we miss? Again, because I could ask Amy to come back and we could talk about some things if you think there's something we left out. But in the meantime, I want you to remember that it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. Thanks again for tuning in, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time.
We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Muleta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.